it's only
just the Monday ones we decided to stop. All right. Sorry.
All right. Okay, I think that very little of a question might have been recorded. But yes, we decided we're not going to record the Monday meetings. We're going to still record check-ins. At least that's my recollection. You can always consider.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Although I do think last week someone else was running this and did not record, so I have to establish that.
Because I did not have host privileges and I was not allowed. I did take notes and I took notes in the admin part, but we just couldn't record.
Okay, cool. All right, well, Friday. Michelle, what do you got?
I'm blocked on the behavior of the date field elements. So we might want to come back to that. That's kind of a long one.
All right, we'll put it on the list to loop back.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not that I can recall.
Carolyn.
I've got two. One is my sort of regular question about my insanely nested if statements. Michelle had a look at them this week and she goes, those are insane. so she rewrote.
I think we need another solution
as a separate statement. So I wanted to run that by you guys to see, what, do you think one is better than the other? And the other issue is that I have two interviews. One has a docx and one has a PDF. And I'm getting asked the address question twice. And then I go back and it's answered. And then I keep going. So I can't, and Michelle looked at this with me and we can't figure out why I'm getting the address question twice. And it's from the assembly line address.
That's close to the description. We can get further into it.
We'll put that on the list too.
Yeah.
So we got
dates,
Michelle's thing, the dates, ifs, lots of ifs, and two addresses.
as
All right.
one.
Two addresses is one. Quentin.
All right, so I think I finished the draft of our Rate My PDF paper which I guess I'm going to submit soon to the National Conference on AI and Law, but I started pulling some of the pieces out to adapt into our main documentation page.
Nice.
And I'll copy some of the information and contact to the Rate My PDF page as well. Did a little pull request, David, for LitCon.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's a couple of copy changes I made, so take a look at that. See if it looks good to you. And other than that, you see a couple things that might be worth discussing. We could probably do on Monday as well. One is if we have ideas for recruiting subjects for usability tests, because it can be a very time-consuming thing. It might be worth doing some brainstorming. I don't know if we have ideas to come up on the project I'm doing with Northeast Legal Aid. And the other is I was realizing maybe a good thing to focus on soon is making a big push. I can free up the time for that like I did for this paper on the Court Forms Online website to update it so it no longer talks about the emergency and it makes room for some of the other features that we identified as being important.
Yeah.
One of which was highlighting reform content for us. So trying to do a better job of having for various states. So I think that's it for me.
All right, cool. Did notice at least one of those pull requests was a spelling mistake on my part, so thank you. I'll review the others when I'm not in the middle of the meeting, but thank you. All right, Amanda, we don't usually see you on Fridays. How you doing?
I'm good. I just realized that these meetings were even going on Fridays. Apparently that was over my head before. So I figured I would go and check it out.
Oh,
Um,
Yeah.
I've got a couple of places that I'm stuck. One of them I posted in the Teams, still on my courts stuff. I have everything working except for the fact that when there's only one court within the county, it's not automatically just displaying the address as the next prompt. It's still displaying the drop down like it would for counties that have multiple courts. So trying to figure that one out, and then somewhat related, in a separate area of my code, I'm trying to get it to filter on within that same court spreadsheet on the district to be able to pull in like a drop down lookup for the district. And I'm running into issues with that too. So those are my two areas that I'm battling with.
sounds familiar. I feel like that one sounds familiar.
Every time I make a step forward with this one, then I go back a couple of steps. So
All right. Do you think we're starting to get to the point where we might not be able to get to all these questions, so we're going to have to triage? But I like that we have. Cool. Having muted, Amanda has made the international sign of next person. Bryce, what's up with you?
A lot is up with me. Let's see. First, we relevant things. I wasn't able to, Caroline. I know this was not a thing that like you have been actively working on because you got it to a point where you like it, but I was still baffled by like GitHub issues only working on private repos that have DocAssemble contents, and I just couldn't recreate it. I think I made a quick pull request on your branding thing because there were a few other issues that I ran into, but like once I got that was like ran into a big old error screen that was like it was trying to DocAssemble was trying to like parse Python where there wasn't any Python, and it should have just been a normal string. But I like made a quick PR for that. But once I sort of got through that, I couldn't really reproduce. And so the mystery is unknown, and maybe it had something to do with like the GitHub users was the only thing I could guess. But at the very least, it's good to know. I can't really reproduce it, and I should I should try to have like a lot of extra documentation around things like that. In general. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Also, I'm like, I guess the other two big things that I did this week were the our Form Explorer PDF, rate my PDF stats. I parsed through and relabeled every single PDF. And am now scoring every single PDF. And I didn't realize how long scoring will also take. It took like 30 hours to do the first one, and it's probably going to take another 30 hours. It's like halfway through, and it's been running since last night at like.
You know, beefier 8. Machine for that.
Yeah, I guess so. It's not like running in super parallel or anything yet, but and that just feels like a lot harder. But in general, it is just a little pretty slow. So yeah, and so that's been going since like Tuesday. And while that was in the background, I have added radio button support to DocAssemble, hopefully. Because that was just Jonathan like having it's like PDF. It looked like when I finally dove into it, and now that I understand a lot more PDF stuff, it wasn't anything that like in PDF Miner that isn't working. It's just DocAssemble did not understand how radio buttons were structured usually. And so that there are a few PDFs in there a few PRs on DocAssemble upstream that when they're merged, they can do stuff, but we still have to add support directly in like the Weaver and whatnot to recognize them once they come in, but that shouldn't be too much. And other than that, I don't think there's anything necessarily I'm blocked on other than there's just a lot of stuff happening and don't quite have time to do it all, but that's it.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that. I am.
For
Yes.
the PDF scoring, Bryce, like I was like, we just don't have to have that by Sunday. That's okay. So don't try to meet an arbitrary deadline.
That's fair. Once it finishes running, I can just copy paste the output and give you and send it to you, but of all the random numbers, and it's already going. So if anything, it's just, and it's not going to be polished output anyway. Is mostly the thing I'm realizing is that if we wanted to try to run small tweaks of like, oh, what happens if we change this other thing? How would it affect everything? That's a lot harder, going to be a lot harder to do when it takes like 4 days straight to
Take some
just
random
know.
sampling that doesn't take so long and use that.
Yeah. We'll have to have a good way to do that, but that's that.
All right, cool. And also, as far as like all the things, don't worry about that other thing that we were just talking about in Teams. You don't have to. That's not a rush job either. So like it can prioritize.
Cool, okay.
Prioritize.
Cool.
I can tell you what's not a priority, right? Because all right, cool. Lisa.
Hey, everybody. Glad to see you. Just jumping on the call because it's like TIG and TIP application time in the legal aid world. And I don't know, someone may reach out to all
What?
y'all to,
I just
Can
got
you
there.
hear?
Everyone just got their tigs.
Dr. TIG, Dr. TIG.
No, I thought everyone just got their tigs.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said that. Well, it's funny. As soon as one thing starts, the next application cycle begins. It's like an endless loop. I mean, we're wrapping up one and we've got actually a TIP grant that didn't involve any document assembly or anything, but it's a separate kind of project. But the cycles really overlap because there's such a long lead time. And some of the cycles, some of the grants are 18 months, 24 months. So people get their grants usually in the fall, early fall, and sometimes they start right away depending on the setup, or sometimes a little later. So people probably got their grants in September, October. We didn't have a TIG this year. So anyway, I'm just giving you a heads up because people in the next month may be reaching out to y'all, and also to report that Louisiana, as you may know, is going to dive into its next tier of automated documents, which I don't know that it will involve you or not. It sounds like they've got their own infrastructure right now for DocAssembly for the time being. Let me know about actually.
Help set them up with they have a server at the Supreme Court. And Amanda's group is the one who does the building for them. So.
Yes, and she's got, I think it's an intern basically who's doing some of the programming. So I guess that'll kind of rotate in and out. But basically what we're working on now in the committees is identifying where we want to go, with the next gen of documents. And that's just a kind of a weeding process. Like, what do people need the most? What's feasible? What's doable? And some of these things have been done many times before in different formats. So it's not like they have to completely recreate the wheel, but DocAssembly is a different interface, which has a lot of possibilities that'll be helpful to us. So that's where we're at right now. So, I mean, someone may come from anywhere in the country, someone may come knocking at your door because the pre-application forms in the grant system are due in early March. So that just gives you a heads up as to the timeline. So folks start scrambling now if they're looking for partners, so that's where it's at.
Be on the lookout, and we'll have students in the fall actually. So that might be.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, because they're always looking for partnerships, and for y'all, you can participate in these, I guess, as you're not a grantee, but you can always, of course.
Well, we're helping with 3 TIGs right now, so.
Wow. Okay, that's good. That's great.
All right, so cool. I don't really have much relevant to document assembly. I've been working on some other things, and relationship to our conference, which is coming up in April on the 3rd. So save the date on that. Yeah, so we've got not that long, about 10 minutes to try to go through the triage set of questions people might have. Oh, what is the conference? Well, the conference is our Legal Innovation and Technology Conference. We used to have them every year before the pandemic, and so we're going back to having one again. And I will drop the URL in the chat. But it's going to be on collaboration at scale. So it's actually going to talk a lot about the stuff we're doing. So actually, a lot of folks who know will be there. We're still waiting to confirm the keynote speaker. Brendan's going to show off some stuff with the Weaver. Our students will show some of their work.
Cool.
Amanda
Nice.
talking about the things about her work. We'll have the head of our Port Service Center here in Massachusetts talking about stuff they did. Matt will also be on that panel with people talking about his work. I think Rochelle will be there as well. Rochelle Hahn, folks know, some folks know. Yeah, it'll be a fun time. Not all that information is, I think some of that information is on the webpage, but I'm waiting for bios and headshots for some people, so not all of that's there. And like I said, we're waiting. So yeah, there's a link. All right, now we really do have 10 minutes to go through the triage list. So we have a blocker with date time, we have nested ifs, and we have addresses, and we have court things, is my recollection. Do any of those strike anyone on this call as a quick thing we could polish off in 10 minutes?
I can skip mine till Monday unless there's an urgency for date time stuff.
Yeah. Okay, well, it might be that none of them are going to be able to fit in, and any one of them is going to take the time of the 10 minutes. So let's see, which one might we have the most chance of solving in that time?
I think my nested ifs versus the statement is just a quick look. What do you? I mean, I don't think requires a lot of analysis. The addresses is going to be longer, but I think Amanda's court thing is probably more important.
Well, why don't we see, because we've looked at Amanda's court thing so much, why don't we see if we can look at it and it looks familiar, and maybe we'll be able to point it in the right direction, or maybe it'll just continue to be the bane of our existence. Amanda, do you have a screen ready to share, or? You
said you're going to do it on Monday or in Teams?
I mean, I'm okay if there's other things we wanted to address today. I'm okay doing it Monday or.
Sounds like everyone is okay with doing it later. So we just need to, well, we can just choose.
I would really like my code thing looked at, because I have to decide if I'm going to go one direction or the other.
And let's do that. Let's look at the ifs.
Okay.
Caroline,
Right.
show us what you got.
Yeah. Here it is. Okay, so we have.
Show the original one first.
That's what I'm doing.
Oh, got it.
Okay, so originally, I have a whole bunch of nested ifs. So there's if. I think that's as far as I go, 5 down. And then elif. The step lists are obviously the consequences of the conditions. So I have all these if, else, if. And what I started doing at some point is some of the else's, I wasn't even sure what it was an else to. So I don't see it now. I put some comments in. So for example, this is if interim ask. Down here, it's like if interim wait or something. But do you see the complexity of the ifs? I mean, you could get it could
show
get
the
worse.
Spreadsheet too. Show the spreadsheet as well.
Okay. And then these are each
just
one of
show.
those. I'm getting there, Michelle.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Sorry.
If these are the statements, so each one of those conditions is a separate statement, and I'm just saying that because I'm going on my way up to the link to the spreadsheet, which is here.
Got it.
So here's my spreadsheet. Forget this is just coding, my own color coding for things. So these are the conditions: existing case, user role, need to respond, interim motion, number of children. And then So that got three types of existing cases, or four, possibly three, et cetera. So that's the framework. So do you guys have feelings about whether this, all these multiple statements, or whether the nested ifs are better practice?
So let's scroll down and look at these multiple statements.
And it really.
As I looked through the requirements on the spreadsheet, I couldn't read the if statements, Caroline, in the original if statements. I couldn't tell what was going on. I couldn't track it. My experiment here was to see if, you know, if you just include all the, not all the, it is nested in some, you know, one or two levels. But generally, but other than that, it just has all the conditions, and you can much more easily track what is the circumstance under which these files are being added. I just couldn't tell what files were being added in the other arrangement. And I couldn't find a way to simplify the logic that I saw in the spreadsheet.
So what is the question, Caroline? It's one.
Which is a better way to go?
How to approach these.
I guess the question I would ask is for whom? Like, who is going to have to live with this?
Well, I live with it, and then anybody who, you know, has to sustain the interviews after I leave. But some of it's just like best practice. You know, at what point do you decide that statements are better than, you know, separate conditions are better than nested ifs? And I understand what you're saying, David, about who is this for, but you know, we're hoping to be sustainable so that, you know, when I'm a shriveled old spider, somebody else can come along and.
Are the I gotta confess, I didn't see the statements close enough. Are they basically, are there a bunch of intermediate variables that they're defining, and then you
No,
think those, or so what's the difference here then? It's just that I see a lot of
You just list each condition. You don't nest for each condition. For example, one has ask court. I was trying to read the
so
ones that we were doing.
do you
I
want
thought-
to, you
I
want
think you're asking
control?
about the other one. Were you asking about this one or the other one, David?
I was asking if the state, what was different between the statements and nested ifs.
So you can see the nested ifs here, like each choice is nested under the other, with some of them having multiple conditions.
Right.
But most of them having one condition, and they continue to nest under each other, right? And then they add just one document in here or two documents in here, depending on what has happened so far. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So up here, you have a couple. I'll go to the top because that it's hard to do with this. But if not once action plan, you add these two. That's it for that. Then else if existing case, and everything else is under existing case for the most part, whatever the open or closed or none. And then, so you have, if user role is closed, you append these two things. If these things are true, all of them, then you append all of these. And the one thing different with this is that it's the same if statement here,
But all the conditions
except
are,
for the last condition is changed.
Number of children, yeah.
well, I mean,
And then it has its set of documents.
yeah, I mean, I know what other folks' opinions are, but the second one does look a little more easy for me to understand. I feel if I was coming in from outside and
Yeah,
get up to speed. And my general, you know, I have a general preference for if you can fit everything into the combination of if and else if statements as opposed to nested if statements. That's generally my preference. So those two things together would sort of speak more for the second as to the first. I think I personally might come down on a slightly different, final bit if that was how I was doing it. But I mean, it's really just first audience is you, Caroline, and the second audience is whoever's going to be in your office. So as an outsider stepping into the code, the latter one looks like I feel like I might be able to understand that more quickly.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe other people have other, but
So
I mean,
you mean- are you referring to this one?
yes.
Okay.
So I'm saying, I think, stepping in right now, having known nothing really about what's going on here, this looks a little clearer to me. But the point is, like, if I was going to do it, I'd probably even do it a different way. Like, the point is, like, it's, all relative.
I think the question is, what are ways to do it, and what is a pro and con of these different ways, right?
I see Bryce has unmuted, so.
My only take is these are the different ways. It's like, if you have a whole bunch of if else statements and it seems like if you have a whole bunch of like Boolean conditions, you end up with the exact spreadsheet that Caroline had of like, here's every single combination of all of these different ones, and here's all of the exact documents that you need. And there are formulas you can use to simplify it, but there are formulas to make it like easier to compute, and they're not formulas to make it easier to understand.
Yeah.
And so my only like advice would be less like about how would you organize the code, which like if I had to like just give a general intuition, I'm with David in terms of these much more blocked out statements are a bit easier to read, although it looked like the other one didn't have formatting, like code formatting for some reason, and so it was all orange, which was a bit hard to read. But the main thing would be like, how would someone coming in, not without like, if without no sort of code, just how would you describe trying to add all of the like which documents go where in which packet? Like if there wasn't code, how would you describe that? Because I think that's the more complicated thing here. It's not the code's always going to be there, but the code is going to be like sort of just describing like why it's so complicated to get all these forms in a single packet anyway.
So
But
you're
I
sort of
said
saying you
that.
want the code
Unfortunately,
to
I'm going to
mimic.
jump to another meeting, so I'm going to make Bryce the host and head over. Good seeing everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Yep.
David.
Thanks, David. Bye.
So Bryce, you're saying you sort of want, it makes sense to have the code mimic a human describing it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that is, I guess that is.
It depends if the
would
human
think
is
about it.
describing it clearly or if they're not describing
Oh,
it clearly.
Right. I mean, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I guess, yeah, that is a way of looking at it. I was thinking more of like, how would you, I was trying to ask like, how would you describe it without code?
Mhm.
Like if you just like wrote it
That's what
down
I
or
meant
in
by
any sort of
human.
way. Yeah, like if you had any sort of way to just like
I think the
even-
spreadsheet was that,
Mhm. In fact, and
From what I
if that's sort of, and if that's fair, and if the spreadsheet is sort of like the only way you can sort of distill it down because it's just that complicated, then honestly, like this way of blocking it out is a bit more redundant, but like it is a bit easier to read through, because it reads a lot like the spreadsheet in terms of it's okay, like all of these 5 cases, you have these documents, and it's just, and so it does make it a bit harder to change because you have a lot of things duplicated everywhere. So if all of a sudden one of those documents doesn't need to be added, if the interim motion is wait or something, then you have to change it in 5 places, and you have to remember to change it in 5 places. But as
you
long
might
as
actually be able to find those 5 places.
yes, exactly. So it's like
Yeah, that's true.
duplicating code isn't as big of an issue as just like, can you even read what's happening sort of thing.
Mhm.
That's my only advice there, but
Yeah. Okey doke. That sounds like that's what we thought, but I just, before I started rewriting the whole code block, I just wanted to double check with you guys and get your take on it. That does
She's
make
gonna do a few more interviews and was going to go with whatever style.
Yeah, I've got 10
Good
more
idea.
interviews to do on top of this. So I wanted to make up my mind which way I was gonna go. Because they're all like this.
And I couldn't see any specific things here that would be like, oh, it makes it a lot easier to read, because there could be like some syntactical thing that doesn't really change anything about how it's laid out, but is just like, oh, you can express the same things on like clear and like fewer lines or something like that. But I don't see anything like that really. So
And
Okay.
Quentin agrees with Bryce and David,
You
and
just-
me for that matter.
Great, okay, well, that's great, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Great. Shall we try to tackle another thing, or do we, is that, or shall we switch to casual Friday? I don't know what sometimes we go over a little bit.
I think we could probably switch. I've seen the address thing and it looks fairly confusing. And so
Okay.
You're talking about the data, are you talking about the date thing?
No, the address thing.
Oh, you did see it, right?
yeah, Michelle
Yeah, I
uploaded
went
the
through.
video.
Oh,
I've been talking about you behind your back. Sorry.
oh, yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. But all that to say is that feels like that would take a while too. So
Yeah. No, I think it would, yeah. So what do you guys want to do? I can go back to copying and pasting.
if we don't have anything else, I don't then I'll probably just